G'day everybody, doing a basic how-to or rough idea of how to replace a air over hydraulic brake booster on an Isuzu F-series. So this is a pretty old one, I think it's a 91 model. It doesn't matter though, they're pretty much the exact same up until modern day, present 2022. They haven't changed much, they just look a little bit neater and there's maybe a little bit more stuff hanging off them. But I'll show you what I'm going to do. It's a very simple job and yeah, pretty much anybody can do it. Alright, so the reason I'm replacing it is when your foot is on the brake, air leaks out of this vent up here, which it shouldn't. So the basic principle over an air over hydraulic booster, it's very similar to a car. Air pressure in here and then fluid on this side. So when air pressure is put in here, piston pushes through the chamber into the cylinder and that converts your air pressure into hydraulic pressure, which goes down to your brakes, which are hydraulic cylinders. So yeah, we have to stop that from leaking, because when you're sitting there at the set of lights or just with your foot on the brake, you're losing all your air pressure because it's leaking through that cylinder. So there will be like a seal or a diaphragm that's cracked or has broken and it's letting air through. So it's pretty simple what has to be done. There's a few bolts or nuts that hold the the cylinder onto the frame here. So I have to undo those. Need to take this brake fluid hose off, and I'll just clamp it there so I don't lose all the brake fluid. Undo these two wires and then undo that air fitting. So once all the external stuff's undone, I'll unbolt it and we'll pop it off, and then we'll get the new one on there and bleed the brakes as well. So it's pretty basic, there's not a lot to it, just undoing a few bolts and a few fittings. So we'll quickly take that off. Rightio, so I've taken the brake fluid supply off of the fitting up there, undone the supply to the brakes fitting down there, and the air supply fitting is also undone. So now what I've got to do is undo, there's 4 nuts, one there, and then 2 on the other side, and that whole unit will come out. You don't need to undo any of these nuts and bolts that go all the way around it. They just hold this hat and the cylinder all together, so don't undo them. I'm pretty sure there's, I don't know if there's a spring in there or not, I can't think, but just be cautious. Also, I've drained the air. It's not critical because no one's in there pushing their foot on the brake, but if you're working on like the air banks and boosters and stuff, you should just release the air anyway, just as a safety precaution. So I'll undo these 4 nuts, pull that cylinder off, and then we'll have a look at the new one. Rightio, so I just got that booster off. Sorry about the wind noise, it's a bit of a windy day today. So here's the old one. I've taken the air fitting out the back of the air side of it. I made a mark on there so I know where to line, so I knew where to line it up for this new one. So then air fittings in, the new one, and that's pretty much ready to go on. That's all you got to change out, it's just this one elbow for the air fitting. So just make sure you make a mark or something, or just remember where it goes. When you get it on there, you can just tighten it up or loosen it with a shifter to line it up with the hose, the pipe. It doesn't really matter, but you need to get it pretty much perfect when you put those hoses, the pipe on, because it's steel, there's not much give for angle, so you need to get it square on or you'll ruin the thread. So that's ready to go back on. So we'll start putting that on, bolt it all in and hook all the stuff back up, and yeah, we'll try and get some fluid through it and hopefully it all goes well. Yeah, so we're just doing the exact reverse of what we just did. Alright, so the booster's all mounted up. So we'll hook all our fittings and hoses and whatnot up too. So we'll get this brake line in first. If you're working on a very old one like this, you just want to make sure you spray everything with like WD-40, CRC or penetrating or something, because a lot of it was quite rusty. Especially these brake line fittings, you want to make sure they've got some good lubrication, because if you round these nuts, they're a pretty soft steel. If you round them, you'll have a trick of a time getting it undone. And last but not least, try and get this airline back on, which is probably going to be the most difficult bit. You really got to be careful to get these on straight so you don't strip the threads, because they can be quite difficult sometimes if you've taken parts off and changed the position slightly. This one's not too bad though, surprisingly. There we go. Right, so now it's all mounted up. Just going to start it up, build up some air pressure. I'll try and get some fluid out of the little nipple on the booster, and we'll go from there. Righty, I've built up air pressure. I've got Dad sitting up in the cab. He's just going to give me a little bit of a hand to bleed this brake cylinder. So I've got that bleed screw undone. So what I need to do is just bleed the air out of the cylinder first before I can bleed the brakes. So I've got brake fluid there. I've opened that. I've got an old Coke bottle here with a bit of hose. We'll put that on there so that when the fluid goes into the bottom of the bottle, it won't suck air up, it'll just suck fluid. So I'm going to hold that on there. I can, and then I'll get Dad to press the brake pedal. You gonna press the brake pedal, Dad? Alright, let it off. Press it again. Let it off. Just press it slow. Go again. Let it off. Press it 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 again. Alright, can let it off. Alright, so I tightened the screw back up there. A little air might have got in when I took the hose off. It's not critical because when I bleed the brakes, all that air will come out. We just want to make sure we've got fluid coming out of that cylinder. It's the main objective. So I'll clean all this up and we'll bleed the brakes. Rightio, so yeah, just build up air pressure again, topped up the brake fluid. We're going to go and bleed all the brakes now because there'll be air in the system, so you need to do that once you've really cracked any of the brake lines on it. You need to bleed it because air will get in there. So I'm not going to film that. There's probably plenty of videos out there on how to bleed truck brakes, so we'll leave it at that. It'll be a short video because it is very, very easy to replace these. Probably the hardest part is probably going to be doing the bleeding the brakes themselves. So Dad has just, I'll tell Dad to put his foot on the brake again, and you can hear that there is no air leaks now. So put your foot on the brake, Dad. So you can't hear any leaks now. It was leaking out of this hatch on the other one. So that is the problem fixed. So we won't be losing air pressure, which will be good. So yeah, we're gonna bleed these brakes and the truck will be done. So I'll leave the video at that, and hope you learned something, and hopefully it makes it, if you've got to do a similar job, it makes it a bit easy for it. As I said, they're pretty much all the same up until 2022, which is when this video will come out. They're all the same pretty much, just a little bit more stuff in the way, but incredibly simple to replace. So we'll leave it at that. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll catch you in the next one. All right.